It is official. The undercard for Anthony Joshua versus Oleksandr Usyk has been announced, and it is garbage. For the record, I am ever the optimist. I will always be a glasses half full kind of person, and I think my opinion on the main event is testament to this. Many people are still sulking over the AJ versus Fury fight falling through, and that they have to settle for the Usyk fight instead. Myself, on the other hand, I think the main event is a 5-star fight, and it is one that I certainly don't mind paying for. But the undercard is not good at all. So, on the undercard, we have Lawrence Okolie, to be expected, versus Dylan Prasovic. Okolie 16-0 versus Prasovic 15-0. Now, Okolie is a fighter who has come under a lot of criticism over the years, pretty much since the get-go, the start of his career. Okolie's a fighter I like. And look, he's had some absolute stinker performances, but he's a legitimate puncher, and he's definitely getting better. His issue was that he was being placed on massive cards. He was headlining at the O2. He was on the undercard of Anthony Joshua's fights, and he couldn't perform under the pressure. But slowly but surely, he's managed to find his shape. He's managed to develop as a fighter, bounce between trainers, and I feel like we are starting to find him. We're starting to see him reach his full potential. Not to say that he's the finished article just yet, but he's certainly becoming a force to be reckoned with. He'll be defending his WBO cruiserweight title against who? Dylan Prasovic? I don't know. I've never heard of this guy before. If we look through his record, I can't see any noticeable names. His last fight was against Tomislav Rudan, who is 7 wins, 29 losses, 1 draw. So I think that kind of speaks volumes. Callum Smith will be making his light heavyweight debut against Lenin Castillo. I think Castillo is most well known for fighting Dmitry Bivol. Bit of a laborious fight to watch. Castillo's big. He's 6'2". Nothing to write home about. But then again, in my opinion, Callum Smith isn't either. I've never been one to really rant and rave about Callum Smith. I just find him to be a very, very... he's a bit of a chore to watch, in my opinion. And his personality kind of reflects that. Look, this is not a personal dig or anything, but just the way he comes across. He comes across as very boring. And his performances kind of reflect that, in my opinion, as well. Then we go on to a welterweight matchup between Maxim Prodan and Florian Marku. I'm not sure about Prodan. Has he fought anyone? Oh, he's fought Steve Jamoy, who, if I remember correctly, fought Conor Benn. Yep. So Conor Benn stopped him in 4 rounds back in 2019, whereas Maxim Prodan went 10 rounds and won a unanimous decision. Kind of speaks volumes about his level, his ability. Now, Florian Marku is someone who let me just say this. I think Florian Marku rates himself much higher than he actually is, or that his ability level warrants. Don't get me wrong. There's a necessity for that to some degree in boxing or any sport. But Florian Marku goes on as if he's the heir apparent to, let's say, the welterweight throne. He really, he's kind of operating at British level, could you say that? I know he's Albanian, but he's not operating at a particularly high level. He got a draw against Jamie Stewart on the undercard of AJ versus Pulev. That he was definitely hard done by. He did win that fight clearly. I do not know what the judges saw or what Marcus McDonald saw. He was judge. I actually picked Florian Marku to be beaten by Ryland Charlton. Now, I thought it was a good matchup, an even matchup, but I thought that Ryland Charlton was a legit puncher, and I just didn't rate Florian Marku at all. But he did surprise me in that fight, and he showed a decent level of skill and dexterity that I didn't expect to see from him. So Florian Marku, definitely an improving fighter in my eyes, But a pay-per-view worthy fighter? Certainly not, especially against such an unknown quantity in Maxim Prodan. Christopher Usyk, I believe it's pronounced, versus Hassan Baysangorov. I don't know either of these guys. Usyk is 12-0. Baysangorov is 21-1. He lost to Rob Brandt back in 2019. He was stopped in the 11th round. So that's certainly not good form, because Rob Brandt is kind of a handy fighter. He's a decent contender, I guess you could say. But he's certainly not seen as one of the elite, or even a decent, like, high-level contender at middleweight. He's kind of just like a run-of-the-mill contender in many people's eyes. And I don't like this. Who is Christopher Usyk? No disrespect, but who is this guy? I've never heard this guy in my life. And you see, if you go through his record, you see, oh, this guy fought Munguia. Yeah, not Jaime Munguia. He fought Jorge Luis Munguia, who the hell is that guy? So yeah, they seemingly just plucked this guy from absolute obscurity and put him on a pay-per-view card. So he's probably getting paid a decent amount of money, but I certainly don't want to pay to watch these guys. Then finally, on this card, we have Campbell Hatton versus Izan Dura. Dura is a Spanish guy. 3 wins, 7 losses, 1 loss by way of knockout. Yeah, a lot of people are harsh when it comes to Campbell Hatton, but I think the vast majority of the criticisms leveraged against Campbell Hatton are legitimate. This guy, from what I've seen of him, he doesn't just look like he's having his early pro fights. He looks like he's having his early amateur fights. This guy is so raw. He has no business being on a pay-per-view card. Now, at the end of the day, like, if I'm in his shoes and I get offered a place to fight on Anthony Joshua's undercard, you best believe that I'm taking it. But that's not the case. As a consumer, I don't want to see Campbell Hatton on this undercard. I don't really want to see Campbell Hatton full stop, because he's just not that good. And just to go off on a tangent, I kind of sound like I'm whining, but this is just my critique. To go off on a tangent, so many people for so many years were digging at Chris Eubank Jr. for, they'd say things like, oh, he's only where he is because of his name. Chris Eubank Jr. was fighting on Mick Hennessy shows. Do you know how dark and dingy and just dire Mick Hennessy shows were? They were bad. Whereas the likes of Conor Benn, the likes of Campbell Hatton, they were literally gifted places on pay-per-views. We're seeing Campbell Hatton now. How many pay-per-views has he fought on? Because he fought on Dylan White's undercard against Povetkin, and he fought on the undercard of Joseph Parker versus Derek Chisora, and now he's fighting on an AJ undercard. And this guy's done nothing. He wasn't that great an amateur. It's really just the name. It is just the name. I'm not going to rag on it, but it is what it is. This card is not good, and I'm kind of in two minds about paying for it now. If you like this card, look, disregard what I say, go pay for it, enjoy it. I hope you have a smashing night. But this is just kind of following the typical mold of Anthony Joshua undercards, because he, like the Pulev undercard, it was okay. It was alright. I kind of bought it at the last minute. Other than that, I really had nothing else to do, so I got it. I did like the Ruiz rematch undercard because there were so many heavyweight fights on that. So it kind of redeemed it. Even though they weren't the highest level heavyweight fights, they were still good heavyweight fights, and there was plenty of drama. The Ruiz first fight, that undercard, I didn't buy purely because it was in America. What was before that? The Povetkin fight, that undercard I did buy, but Lawrence Okolie stunk that one out, and there weren't that many other good fights. I think Campbell got revenge against Mendy, really not great. But then even if you look at Anthony Joshua's biggest fight against Klitschko, That undercard was bad. That was a terrible undercard. That was absolute dross. So kind of following the mold, as I say, following the pattern of Anthony Joshua undercards. And it's a shame because these have the potential to be massive events where they can really capitalize and, you know, really pump some life into boxing, especially after the past 18 months we've had. But no, we get Campbell Hatton, we get unknown Christopher Usyk and Hassan Basangorov, Lenin Castillo versus Callum Smith. Gosh. Let me know what you think about this one in the comment section, guys. I'm trying to be optimistic, but this is just draining me. Just draining me. But yeah, like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thanks for listening, and I'll catch you on the next video.